welcome to BioTech Health X. Today we are joined by Dr. Linda Marbán, Chief Executive Officer and Director of Capricor Therapeutics, as well as AJ Bergmann, Chief Financial Officer. Welcome. Good to have you both with us today.
Thank you, Allison. Delighted to be here.
Thanks.
So today we're going to be discussing your work at Capricor Therapeutics, a biotechnology company dedicated to advancing transformative cell and exosome-based therapeutics that are redefining the treatment landscape for rare diseases. So before we get into that, I want to start by just learning a little bit more about each of you and your background. So could you just introduce yourselves to our viewers today and just give us a little synopsis of who you are? Dr. Marbán, let's start with you.
Thank you so much. Linda Marbán, CEO of Capricor. I've been running the company officially for about 12 years, although I'm also a co-founder of the company. The technology was discovered on the Isle of Capri on a handwritten poster nearly 20 years ago, hence the name Capri for the island and Cor for heart. My personal background is that I have a PhD in physiology from Case Western Reserve University, went on to do my postdoc and junior faculty at Johns Hopkins University before breaking out into biotechnology, almost 25 years ago. And I'm delighted to be here today. Thank you so much for having me.
And I'm AJ Bergmann. I'm the Chief Financial Officer. I've joined Capricor just about 12 years ago as well. Been working with Linda that entire time. We took Capricor public in 2013. We've been listed on the NASDAQ ever since. My background is primarily finance, operations, and at Capricor, I also oversee business development. And it's great to be here today.
Yeah, it's great to have you both. Thank you both very much. You know, really at the forefront of your...
So thank you so much. So as I mentioned a few moments ago in my introductory remarks, we've been working on this therapeutic opportunity for nearly 2 decades. So we know a lot about the cells. An allogeneic cell is an off-the-shelf cell. That means that it comes from an unrelated donor. We isolate out the cell of interest, and then we're able to grow it up into relevant doses that become the therapeutic using proprietary methods developed in our labs. What the cell therapy does is it promotes natural healing. So the cells go in, they release exosomes, which are very small, essentially little cellular bubbles that contain messages for cells to use in order to complete activities such as healing or repairing or promoting new cell growth or attenuating inflammation. And so that is how the product actually works. And, we look forward to seeing it come to fruition in terms of getting approval at the end of this year with positive data, hopefully from our HOPE-3 clinical trial in Duchenne muscular dystrophy.
Now, in June, you announced positive 3-year results from the ongoing HOPE-2 open label extension study with the CAP-1002 for the treatment of Duchenne muscular dystrophy, or DMD. And patients treated with CAP-1002, they continue to show these positive benefits after 3 years of treatments. So what can you tell us about the journey thus far?
It's actually after 5 years of being followed by us. So the patients that just completed their 3-year open label extension study actually were people that were in our original double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled HOPE-2 trial. The results of that were published in The Lancet. The first year, when we had a placebo group, these guys got infused with saline, which they didn't know. And we had a treated group, those that got the saline essentially plus the cell. We saw a 71% delay in disease progression in those that were treated with CAP-1002 compared to placebo controls. Now, what happened was because of all kinds of reasons, mostly administrative, there was a delay before we were able to start the open label extension part of the study. An open label extension means that anybody that was in the original trial, whether you were a treated or a placebo patient, you're eligible to receive that therapeutic. And typically, companies make that available to people for a year. It's typically a way we say thank you for your service, essentially, because if you're a placebo patient, you didn't know it, but you probably didn't get any other potential benefits. So, but by the time we got that going, we had a year in between where nobody got any treatment. And now our open label extension people have been on treatment for, we just showed 3-year data, but in reality, they're coming around their 4th year, and actually they're about to start their 5th year. So one has to ask oneself, why are we continuing this open label extension study? Well, because the benefits that the guys are seeing are so extraordinary in terms of delaying disease progression that they are literally lining up outside the door to get their infusions every 3 months because they see such a difference in how they feel and function. So the 3-year data was really important data because it shows not only long-term efficacy, which is how, we judge whether therapeutic is working. Are you different than you were? Are you different than other people that were treated or did not get treatment? And then you're also able to show a very long-term safety record. So in the 3-year data, which is probably our most important data set yet, we actually were able to compare those that were getting CAP-1002 or Deramiocel now, with a natural history data set from Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. So these are tertiary care certified Duchenne center where they measure all kinds of information when the guys come in for their regular visits. So we're actually able to study how the disease progresses without intervention. And so the data that we showed at the PPMD or Parent Project for Muscular Dystrophy meeting showed that those that were treated with CAP-1002 over 3 years had a much better trajectory than those that were just being observed at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. So really exciting opportunity, shows good potential for long-term treatment benefit. It's most gratifying to us to have something that's actually making people feel and function better. And most importantly, this will also help us with our regulatory projections.
Maybe let's back up just a little bit here, just for reference. Maybe could you explain what DMD is and what you're really hoping that patients are going to get from this CAP-1002 or Deramiocel?
So DMD or Duchenne muscular dystrophy is an X-linked genetic disorder. That means it comes from the mom, but the mom doesn't know she carries it because we females have 2 X's. And so it's kind of shielded from being expressed. However, in boys or men, they have 1 X and 1 Y chromosome. That's how they're male. And so this disease, which is shielded in the women, they don't know they have it to carry it. Their sons get it. And sometimes then there's also a spontaneous mutation, which is even harder. So they can't even really trace why it happens. But what happens is with this mutation is this protein called dystrophin, which is the largest protein in the human body, is not able to be made. And dystrophin functions to protect cells from damage and also to help them maintain their structure. So it's sort of like struts on a car or a skeleton for a person or something where it actually gives it shape, but also protects internal organs or internal parts from damage. And so it's an extremely important protein. In Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which is the worst of the muscular dystrophies, there's others like Becker's and a few others where they have some dystrophin. Duchenne guys have no dystrophin. Their cells get damaged much more easily than when you have dystrophin. So that's why, a mom and dad will have a son. He, appears normal, happy-go-lucky little fellow. About 3 years old, they might notice that he's walking a little differently, maybe a little slower, might be falling a little more, maybe unable to climb the stairs like he did just, a little bit ago. And they'll take him into the doctor and they run a very simple blood test and it looks for an enzyme of skeletal muscle in the blood. And that if it's very, very high, they typically can diagnose Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And from that point forward, it's an endless decline of losing muscle function as opposed to, typical children who gain it, where they ultimately lose their ability to walk on their own somewhere between 10 and 15 years of age, typically, and then ultimately lose the ability to use their arms and hands and shoulders. So, feeding yourself becomes difficult, drinking water becomes difficult, moving a wheelchair becomes difficult. And then ultimately, their ability to breathe is impacted. Diaphragm muscles help you breathe, and they ultimately go away. And of course, the most draconian of all is that their heart muscle is affected. And so they ultimately end up with a very severe heart disease called Duchenne cardiomyopathy, which in many cases is what causes them to die from the disease. Now, another tragic part of this disease, as I mentioned, is moms don't know they're carrying it. And most of the time it's not diagnosed until little guys are about 3 or 4 years of age, which means sometimes families have 2, sometimes even 3 sons that are impacted before the diagnosis is made. Because think about family planning, many people have children 2 years apart.
Right.
So if your 2-year-old seems healthy, you're not paying any attention. And then if you have one, they test another if you've had a son. And so it's a very, very sad disease, long-term trajectories, lots of, hospitalizations and care. And so we're delighted to have an opportunity to make these guys feel and function better.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Thank you for that explanation. It gives us a little bit of clarity as we continue to move forward. In June, you also announced that the FDA has scheduled a pre-BLA meeting with the company in the third quarter of 2024 for CAP 1002. What can you tell us about that upcoming meeting, and what is your desired outcome of that meeting?
Yeah, so, the Food and Drug Administration, especially CBER, the Center for Biologics, has been really fantastic in trying to move the needle forward for treatment of rare diseases. They are understanding that in small patient populations, clinical trial design, implementation, and then ultimately data readout can potentially be muddy. And so FDA has been working very closely with us and others in order to help us define a measurement of efficacy, how something works, and then also getting it across the line so it can be available to all, in this case, boys and young men with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. So a BLA, which is the Biologics License Application, is the document that you file with the Food and Drug Administration to ask for approval for your drug or therapeutic so that you can then make it available to all those that need it. It's a very large document with a lot of components where they look at every aspect of your clinical and preclinical and manufacturing journey to make sure that in the United States, we're giving people drugs that are safe and effective. A pre-BLA meeting is exactly what it says. It's a meeting that the FDA holds with the company or the entity prior to the submission of that document to make sure that your I's are dotted and T's are crossed, that the data that you have should be sufficient for that. Why would you put in a many thousand-page document if your data is not ready, and that you're, sort of putting it in the right format so that the analyses can be done as to whether you can get approval. It's probably the second most important regulatory meeting a company can ever have, the first being the actual BLA meeting itself, or the approval that comes from the document itself. So we're really, working hard to prepare for this. What we're hoping to achieve is guidance from the FDA as to the filing of our BLA. So what does that mean? One of the things we're looking for is something called a rolling submission. That means you can submit each section of your BLA as it's ready. This is wonderful because you can get feedback on it and continue to work on it while other sections are being prepared. It makes the trajectory to approval faster and more efficient both for the company and for the agency. The other thing that we're going to be doing is showing them data that we just spoke about, the HOPE-2 open label extension 3-year data, because what we're wanting to show them is this therapy is safe and efficacious, it works. And, I think it's colloquially said in the field, but we believe very strongly that time is muscle. And so the sooner that we get these guys on Deramiocel, formerly known as CAP 1002, the sooner that we have the ability to slow the progression of this disease process. And so those are our goals, basically to educate the FDA as to the very strong data that we have, as well as to get the process for the BLA going.
Mr. Bergmann, is there anything that you wanted to add with that upcoming meeting?
No, I think Linda articulated it very well.
Great. Okay. I want to then expand a little bit further on the work. So can you tell us about how Capricor is harnessing this power of exosome technology using your proprietary StealthX platform?
Yeah, so this harks back to what you asked about earlier. You asked a little bit about preclinical work, and I was so excited about clinical work that I launched into that. So I'm just going to take 2 seconds and take a step back in history for us, Allison. So we discovered that the mechanism of action of our cell therapy, CAP 1002, now Deramiocel, was through the release of exosomes. And we did this by very sophisticated biodistribution studies where we were able to see that the cells release the exosomes track the sites of injury, and then work to control inflammation and fibrosis, which is scarring. And so we realized at that time that the power of the exosome to deliver cellular messages. They are the words of cells, how cells speak to each other, and they're in every biologic fluid. If you've ever had a beer or a glass of milk, you're drinking exosomes. And of course, there's trillions of them moving around in your blood as we speak. Well, what we realized is, and it wasn't just us that realized it, but we're taking a very unique approach, was that if you can take an exosome, which is the word of a cell, carries the words of cells, and are also coated in cell membrane, you can actually deliver messages, opportunity for carrying out biologic functions using an exosome as your tool of delivery. So I think most people now are familiar with lipid nanoparticles. They were, front and center during the pandemic because that's the housing that was put around the mRNA to deliver for many of the vaccines that were used for COVID. Well, the exosome is a natural lipid nanoparticle, and it's far stronger and better than a lipid nanoparticle that's engineered in a bioreactor, because an exosome is not really recognized as foreign by the body, so it doesn't stimulate an immune response. That's why we call our technology StealthX, because it can kind of fly through the body like a stealth bomber without being detected. And it can carry messages to go to specific places within the body. And in order to even harness that power faster and better, we put targeting molecules on the outside of the exosome, sort of like a landing dock, telling it where to go. So, for instance, if you put something that targets the exosome to a skeletal muscle, it will go preferentially to a skeletal muscle, where then we'll deliver its content inside the cell safely and allow for biology to occur. What we're doing, and it's been a sequential approach, is the first thing we did is we developed a vaccine similar to what others have done, but showing that the exosomes can be superior. We believe it's superior to any other technology that's out there, because we can put a natural protein inside and outside the exosome to make a multivalent vaccine. That means that the vaccine will go after different viral proteins and have potentially stronger and better impact. And then in addition to that, you should have less side effects, because the exosome itself is a natural occurring molecule, so it doesn't cause, any of the safety issues that may have been seen with a lipid nanoparticle. And in addition to that, because we can put protein inside and outside of the exosome, we then can make a vaccine that has the efficacy or the ability to prevent illness that would be similar to a recombinant protein vaccine, which is gold standard in vaccinology, but it's much faster to make. So we make the native protein. We don't have to make a recombinant protein. So you combine the power and the speed of an mRNA vaccine with the efficacy of a recombinant protein vaccine. And that program is using our StealthX technology. It's being funded by the National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Disease through Project NextGen, and is the launching of our exosome engineer program, which will have therapeutics being developed, taking advantage of this targeting technology, as well as driving other types of biology. And while we've presented a lot of preclinical data on the StealthX program, we haven't gone into the clinic yet. We've been focusing on launching Deramiocel for DMD, and then 2025 is going to be a year where we have big progress in the exosome program.
Now, on the corporate level, most recently you announced that the company is set to join the Russell 2000 Index and the broad market Russell 3000 Index. So what does that milestone really mean for the organization?
Yeah, I can jump in there. I mean, obviously, we were very encouraged to join the Russell 2000. It's a highly followed index, across the world by money managers, institutional funds. I mean, broadly speaking, it brings more awareness to Capricor's story, brings hopefully a broader audience of investors into the story. So again, I think it's a testament to us delivering on, our story, our message, and our pipeline, and continuing to bring this story to investors really around the world is a big focus of us. As you may or may not know, we have partnerships secured for our Duchenne asset in the United States and Japan with our partner Nippon Shinyaku, but we have other opportunities for partnering in other regions around the world as this asset gets closer and closer to potential commercialization. So that's how we're positioning it, but we are very excited to be a part of it now.
Yeah, wonderful. Now at Capricor, you really stand committed to pushing the boundaries and really the possibility of forging a path towards transformative treatments for those in need, like we discussed earlier, and how exciting that this can be, that you're able to give this to patients. But you've talked a little bit about what we can expect throughout the next year and maybe for the next couple of years, but can you share anything else that you're excited about, or what we can expect in the coming months or the years ahead?
Yeah, so I'll jump in and then I'll let AJ sort of supplement. So, of course, the most important thing will be the data from the HOPE-3 clinical trial. This is our pivotal trial that we have been waiting for a long time. Data's coming. This should spur approval for Deramiocel in Duchenne muscular dystrophy. That's our biggest milestone, that and the initiation and completion of our BLA submission. We look to get approval for our product in 2025, and speed is of the essence, obviously. But we're not stopping there, because with a therapeutic that's potentially powerful, we're looking at other indications. So we recently have initiated an internal program looking at Becker muscular dystrophy. It's another form of muscular dystrophy, and we believe will be a good jump off point of the technology to expand on its opportunity and healing and helping those with muscular dystrophies. And then, of course, as I mentioned a moment ago, we have 3 or 4 programs in the exosome space that we've been working on preclinically. I know people are anxious to hear all about where we're taking the exosomes clinically. We had to sort of get them, market ready. So, manufacturing, preclinical work, and that kind of thing. So it has been a great journey with the exosomes, and we look forward to providing updates on that program coming forward in 2025. AJ, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, thank you, Linda. I think obviously we're very focused as a company in bringing our lead product to market as quickly as possible to help these patients, and they desperately need it. And we feel we're in a great position to deliver on that. And there's multiple legs to the stool that support the continued development, as Linda articulated. I will mention, we have large partnership dollars hopefully coming to us, up to 90 million, up to potential approval, and another 600 or 700 million coming into Capricor should we achieve the desired approval and the sales revenues that we expect to achieve, and then further downstream opportunities for other business development partnering. So it's all set up to deliver on the partnering front, of course, bringing in institutions and investors into this story. And we're very encouraged about where we stand today.
Yeah, it is all sounding very encouraging, really clear that Capricor Therapeutics at the forefront of innovation in the biotech field. We certainly appreciate all of your updates and your insights today. And we look forward to continuing to watching you, not just over the coming months, but over the coming years as well, and wish you a lot of success. Thank you for spending time with us today.
Allison, thank you. It was delightful.
Thank you.